Thursday, June 19th, baseball was buzzing. Stanley is partying, and is tonight the night that Larry is drinking, or he's flying 597 miles to party a little bit later? We are all intact and in tow and in better shape than the Stanley Cup currently is. And not only is hockey the toughest sport, but the hockey trophy is the toughest trophy in all of sports as well, as it's already taken a beating from the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. It's been on people's Ring doorbell cameras at the beginning of the early parts of the morning. What a scene in Fort Lauderdale, and it still goes on today. Boys, how the hell are you?
Doing well. You know, it's kind of funny. It doesn't have the same ring, the Larry O'Brien trophies in the house, right? Doesn't have the same ring, does it?
That's why you call it the Larry. Have I not laid out the groundwork for this trophy? And it
just doesn't sound the same.
As far as I know, I got to double check on this. I might be wrong. And if you're out there in comment land, feel free to correct me if you know the correct answer to this. I don't know if Larry has its own Twitter account. Stanley does. Confirmed reservations with Matthew Tkachuk for the elbow room the other night, amongst other things. Didn't give us any love when I asked if it brought its goggles and it was ready for another swim in the Atlantic Ocean. But apparently we're not big enough for Stanley yet. We'll get there at some point. TJ, how the hell are you, buddy?
I've got a few bumps and bruises, but, nobody's trying to drink beer out of me yet.
I'm not sure what to do with that, so I'm just going to move us on into the NHL offseason here.
There you go.
I've drank beer with you. I will never drink beer out of you. I can promise you that. No amount of alcohol will lead me to that position. But, guys, the NHL offseason is going to be here before we know it. Free agency opens in exactly 11 and a half days. How do you be exact at 11 and a half? It's going to be one of those shows, so just buckle up and hold on if you're out there in listener land, and we appreciate you being here. Feel free to comment along. Follow us on our social channels at Mike Arana Show everywhere. But where, TJ?
Everywhere except Snapchat. Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's going to be a day. Why are we not on Snapchat, TJ?
Because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks.
All right, let's attempt to get this train back on the tracks, and let's talk about that NHL offseason that I referred to. Plenty of stuff going on today. If you're driving the train, Mac, it's never going to get back on the tracks. I think, and I've said this a couple of times, in both the NHL and the NBA, we're in for a crazy offseason. And Mac and I talked about this yesterday, Teach. There's a lot of teams jockeying for position, especially in the Eastern Conference. What the hell do we do? How the hell do we compete with this freight train that is the Florida Panthers? Bill Zito, in more comments that he made yesterday, echoed the fact that basically ownership has told them to spend to the cap, spend aggressively, and keep this thing rolling. And obviously the Panthers have some questions that they have to answer, but I think the jockeying that we're about to see in this NHL offseason is going to be historic. And hopefully for everybody, it doesn't end up like it did for the Nashville Predators last year.
No, the Preds would probably like a mulligan on that offseason. Holy cow. But yeah, this is going to be fun, especially because the demand is not there the supply is not there to meet the demand. And so what you're going to see is a bunch of guys get just money that you thought was unfathomable for them. And the return's not going to be as great. And that's going to cause some fans and some fan bases to lose their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mac, the funny thing about this, and we'll each kind of lay out a couple of teams that we have our eye on going into this offseason here in just a few minutes, and a bold free agent move, whether it's a good one or a bad one. And TJ just said it, the supply is not going to meet the demand there. And I know one guy that's going to get massively overpaid, and I'm going to laugh my ass off when it happens. But I think we're in for a crazy spot. And there are some people, Mac, and you and I have talked about this a couple of times, that think that the timing of this is not necessarily a good thing for the NHL. If they were to push it back a little bit later, they could create more interest, because they are kind of going up in the offseason directly with the NBA. And it is a quick turnaround in both sports.
Yeah, it is. The only thing is, I mean, it's a quick turnaround for a couple of teams. I mean, there's some teams that I guess, if you look at it this way, have already been done for a month or so. So you have that as well. But yeah, I mean, it is tough. I mean, we know we have baseball that's there, and you know the the NHL, I will say, over the last 2 or 3 years, has done a tremendous job of making free agency fun and exciting. Um, and so as long as they continue that, I think it'll be fun. There's some big names. There's some interesting names. I just kind of looking at the list. A lot of older players this year. It seems like a lot of older players on that list. So I'm wondering, a lot of times we'll see, and TJ, you know this, like contracts that seem like 8, 9, 10 years. I don't think we'll see that so much with a lot of this, with this free agency pool. I think we'll see some shorter contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got, a couple of teams each that we're kind of going to eyeball here, and I'll get us rolling down that road. The first team that I have direct eyeballs on for a couple of reasons is the Detroit Red Wings. And people are getting a little restless in Detroit. Sports in Detroit are absolutely banging right now between the Pistons, the Lions, obviously the Tigers, the best team in baseball right now. The Tigers currently in action. And I have a bone to pick with the Tigers and the Steelers, or the Tigers and the Pirates today for not giving us what we should have gotten as fans. We know that the NBA is run by people on X. Clearly, Major League Baseball is not run by people on X. But the Red Wings are in an interesting spot here because of, I just think the palpable buzz in Detroit for all their sports teams right now, and the Red Wings are the one team that kind of hasn't gotten it done. Now, a couple of things to remember here about the Red Wings. This is Todd McClellan's first offseason with that team. And I think you're going to definitely see them make some moves to kind of shape that team in a fashion that McClellan wants to see. And everybody in Detroit really, really wants a top line guy here, a winger, a big name guy that can score goals. For me, when I look at Detroit, it's the defensive side of the ice, if you will. And I think that's where they need to really kind of hone in and identify here. And there's a guy that absolutely jumps off the page for a lot of ties, and that's Vladislav Gavrikov. Familiarity with Todd McClellan. That's an easy friggin' name to say when you're barely awake in the morning. But I think he's a guy that definitely boosts the Wings, TJ, to a higher level here. And I know everybody, again, in Detroit wants to see them make that big line, big goal scorer kind of move. They've got a lot of money under the cap. There's a few different things they can do here, but I think shoring up that defense and getting a top 4 defenseman is kind of where I would start if I was the Red Wings.
Well, it's 100% where I would start. You got Mort Seider in there, who's locked in for the next few years. He's 24 years old, but the rest of that defense is 33 and above. And after next year, only one of them is going to be under contract. So yes, I think Gavrikov would actually be a decent fit. He's done well in Los Angeles. The Kings' problems are a little bit deeper. But I think Gavrikov would be a great fit. He could pair up with Seider and give them a left-right top line that would be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mac, you're Mr. Detroit. I mean, what's your general view on the Red Wings? I mean, and we talked about this yesterday specifically, that sports are better with villains, and the Panthers have become that villain. Well, the ultimate villain to me in the NHL has always been the Detroit Red Wings for my own personal hockey team's pain that was caused by the Red Wings. But the Red Wings need to be good. The NHL needs the Red Wings to be good. They need the Rangers to be good, so forth and so on. What do you think of the Red Wings going into the offseason?
I mean, they were right there on the cusp of making the playoffs. I mean, they weren't too far away. For me, I think there's not a lot of good goalies out there in this class. That's the only problem. I know they have a good young, I'm trying to think of his name, Sebastian Casa, I think is their young guy. That's pretty good. You're right though. Detroit, the Red Wings, that's, it's one of those elite teams in the NHL. And yeah, we need them to be good. But I think they need some scoring up front. I think you hit right at the beginning. I think that's what they need, is they need to hit some scoring up front.
Yeah, but
not dogs.
well, they've gotten a bunch of dogs. That's the problem right now, and they need to get rid of those dogs. So a bunch of those players are probably just going to age out. I think you'll see Ben Sherratt. He'll be if the Wings aren't in that playoff rush, he's a guy that would be a great ad for a cup contending team. So they have assets, but yes, they need to get younger on defense. That's for sure.
T, where are you going? Give me a team you got your eye on in this off season here. I've got a good guess on one of them.
Well, one of them I actually mentioned several weeks ago, the Nashville Predators. They won the off season last year, and all they got for it was a lousy T-shirt and a seventh place finish. And that's not going to happen, especially with the hiring of Barry Trotz to run hockey operations now. That is completely unacceptable. Yes, they got the big names. They got Stamkos. They got Shea. I thought they overpaid a little bit for these players, but they got them. They got Marchessault, and it just didn't mesh. And so they need to do something. They need to make a splash. They're solid in goal right now. They're going to have some cap flexibility, not a lot, but they are going to have a little bit of cap flexibility. They acquired Eric Holla, which will give them a little bit of a middle six veteran presence. But I'm still sticking with, I said a few weeks ago, I would love to see them sign and trade for Mitch Marner. I think they have the draft capital that Toronto needs to rebuild. I think they can send Toronto a couple of wings, discounted rate compared to Marner, and everybody wins.
Yeah, and you projected to have about $17 million in cap space in that draft capital that you talked about, 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2 sixths. And I've said this a couple of times. I think there's going to be a very short leash in Nashville because of what they did last year in the offseason. And I'm not putting it out of possibility that Barry Trotz says enough is enough and finds himself back behind the bench if this thing continues to fail at a massive rate there. Mac, what's a team you have your eye on in this offseason?
Team that just missed the playoffs. That's the Calgary Flames. I like this team. Really good young core. I just think they're not afraid. This is a franchise that's made some big signings in the past. Some have been questionable, but they're not afraid to go out and make a big move. I think you're going to see the Calgary Flames make a very bold move in the offseason to get them over the edge. There's a lot of, they have a new arena that's coming up. Like I said, I think this is an up and coming team. I like the Calgary Flames. I expect them to be really, really active in the free agency.
Yeah, and Calgary, Teach, they just missed the playoffs, and like normally you go, well, offensively they just need all kinds of help, but it's kind of deceptive when you look at what they were able to produce offensively as far as shots per 60 minutes and all those advanced metric stats. They just need guys that can put the damn thing in the net, and they have a shit ton of projected cap space there. And, again, I think Mac nailed it right there. They were so close, and it's converting puck into basket. That's literally what it is. They can get shots. They were able to get plenty of shots. They just couldn't make anything.
Well, and they need to get a little bit younger. Their top end talent is, Huberdeau's 32 and Kadri's 34. That needs Coleman's 33. So that they do need to get a little bit younger. And they're also a team, Mike, where they're on defense. They got Mackenzie Weegar, and they've got a bunch of players not under contract for 26, 27. So they're another team that could overpay for defensemen. And I actually think that Ivan Provorov would be a good fit there.
Oh, interesting. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. Feel free to comment along. Who's your team? What do you want to see them do in the offseason? Who's a team you think can surprise us in the NHL offseason? TJ is going to be taking us over the next couple of weeks, kind of team by team. Obviously, we're not going to spend too much time on the Blackhawks and Sharks, but we're going to focus on the teams that are right around that line and about to get into the playoffs, maybe some teams that might miss the playoffs. So TJ is going to take us all the way through that. My second team, guys, is a team I got to actually see up close and personal last year. And there's a new direction there. There's kind construction all over this place right now, and an expansion of the area around to try and print some more money for the team if they can make the right moves. But that's the Anaheim Ducks. Damn near projected to have almost $40 million in cap space. Obviously, the move already for Chris Kreider. We've got Joel Quenneville there. And you've got the Ducks, the Sabres, almost called them the Bills, the Blackhawks, and the Sharks. All teams that are in massive rebuilds right now. And of those 4 teams, I think the team that, quote, jumps the shark, no pun intended, maybe pun intended, is Anaheim, because they do have a new direction. I think they've got some interesting things here. And there's some names that I'm going to toss out here, and we'll go from TJ to Mac on this one. But a name that I know you have talked a lot about, especially over the last couple of weeks, that I could see being a fit in Anaheim is Nick Ehlers. Another guy I think that could be a fit in Anaheim is Brock Besser. And we know the Canucks are going to start to make some significant changes. There's going to be a lot of people that are looking at Brock Besser. And another thing I can see, and they've already re-signed Nesterenko, Trevor Zegras is going to be an interesting one in Anaheim. I don't think that he is going to be on this roster next year. So I think Anaheim's going to be one of the more active teams in the offseason. Marco Rossi is another name that's been floated out there. I don't know if he's necessarily the best fit for them, but you're going to see a whole different version of this Ducks team. And we know what the West is, guys. You got to get to 89 points, TJ. I mean, the West is loaded. It's talented top to bottom. And I don't think this Anaheim team is that far off from being in the mix.
I don't think they're that far off, but the hiring of Joel Quenneville has me thinking kind of along the same lines as you. They're going to try and get more veterans to kind of shepherd these young players in, like Cutter Gauthier and and Jackson Lacombe. This team is close. They are close. They didn't miss the playoffs by a lot, maybe 12, 15, 14 points. So they aren't that far away. But with Quenneville coming in, I could see this team going and rebuilding with more vets, more 28, 29, 30-year-old players to bring these younger players along. The one thing that is not very popular in Anaheim that I would be a huge proponent of is getting Trevor Zegras out of town. Because I don't think, since he signed his contract a couple of years ago, I think the pressure of that contract may have gotten to him, and he's not performed. And look, this is how the fans are going to look at it, whether you think it's right or not. He hasn't performed to the contract. He's due to make $5.75 next year, and then he's going to be looking for a pay bump after that. I don't think it's working out for him. I think he's a lot of style and a lot of flash, and he makes the cover of the NHL game. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? He's just not cutting it. So I could see Trevor Zegras being one of those assets used to bring in better players to see this rebuild through for the Ducks.
Mac, are you going to join me on the Flying V bandwagon next season?
Listen, if they're going to do it, just go for it. Here, I love, Pat Verbeek, Whaler, of course, got to mention that.
Yeah,
but here, listen, if they're going to do this, just go ahead and do it. You know what? They got Joel Quenneville, like you said. He likes the veterans. Just make the plunge. Sign Marner, sign Tavares, and here's another one. Why don't you bring Corey Perry back and just recycle the whole darn thing and see what you can do?
They can't bring Corey Perry back. That's going to guarantee them that they're not going to win the Stanley Cup. Mac, give us your other team that you have an eye on in this offseason.
Well, I defaulted to Carolina, and just for this reason. I mean, they've been so close. I mean, are they going to? I mean, the big question we know for everybody is, how do you deal with Florida? They're either going to make that decision and try to figure out what they need to do to get through Florida and get to the finals, or this has got to be just a complete breakdown, break it down and build it back up again. So, that's my idea on the Hurricanes. It's like, what are they going to do? I mean, you got to get better. How are you going to get better, or just break it on down?
Yeah, Tej, I know you're going to have some extended thoughts on the Hurricanes, so don't totally open the bag here, but give me a quick thought or two on the Canes.
The Canes are one of those teams that, and the Canes are frustrating because they are so good and they are so close and they can't get anybody to want to play for them. and it is
You
just
unreal.
did it.
skate. You can't skate anymore, Mac. Give it up.
It is unreal how
No, your boy just did it. I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you see that?
What?
Your boy Cags went deep.
Oh, congratulations, Cags. TJ, continue.
Sorry.
So the Canes are going to have to be one of those teams that overpays for somebody to come and play with them. But the Canes also have an identity under Brenda Moore that they're going to be tough to skate against. They're going to move that puck north and south, and they're going to just fire shot after shot on net. The problem is they need to find people who want to play there.
Yeah, exactly. And before we get into real quick, just one guy or move that we think we're going to see that's going to shock everybody here, TJ. I know you got one team left, and this is a team a lot of people are going to have their eyeballs on. So go ahead and lay it on us.
Well, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins. Like, they have to you have to crap or get off the pot at this point. You've tried to retool this team. This team has a ton of players over 32 years old. Your best player arguably is 37. You have these players who are making high tickets, like Erik Karlsson, like Chris Letang, like Sidney Crosby, like Evgeny Malkin. And look, these players were great when they're 29, 30 years old. But now that they're getting into the upper 30s, it's just not working out. This team needs a shot of youth, and they keep trying to take another kick at the can. And it's frustrating as hell because this team has enough draft capital to start ripping this thing apart, and they won't do it. And this is why they need to start doing it. They need to ship Raquel off. They need to ship Rust off. Crosby's going to ride his own ticket out of town if and when he's ready to. But some of these players, they need to just cut them loose. They need to let them go. It was great. You got me some cups. Now it's time for them to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to comment along. As I said, the right people that push the buttons will get your thoughts on the screen. Big move, shocker. And we've talked about the Dallas situation and where Dallas's positioning is, like Colorado in the West. Dallas has been able to get to the doorstep a bunch of times, and then they keep getting the door slammed in their face. So one of my things that I think we're going to see, and I'm going to laugh my ass off when it happens, and maybe some of this is personal, but it's the team, and you talked about the supply and the demand, TJ, the team that massively overpays for Mikael Granlund. He's going to be 34 years old going into this season. We saw him when he was in San Jose, and you can say what you want about the situation in San Jose, but he was a top liner, and he didn't come anywhere near close to what was expected out of him on a top line. In Dallas, he wasn't a top liner, played a little bit better, but because of supply and demand, I think that somebody is going to massively pay for Granlund, and I'm going to laugh my ass off when it happens because I know it's not going to be the Sharks, because I think the Sharks are still one more season away before they actually dip into the free agent pool and try and make a move. But whoever signs that contract, I think is going to massively regret it.
Well, yeah, I mean, give Granlund some credit. He is coming off back-to-back 60-point seasons, but yes, somebody is going to overpay for a 34-year-old winger or center/winger who gets you 60 points a year. I mean, but there's a dearth of centers right now, and teams need centers. So I could see somebody paying him 6 or 7 to go center the third line.
Mac, you mentioned the Carolina Hurricanes. You mentioned the Calgary Flames. Granlund a fit there, or are one of those teams going to overpay for Granlund?
Yeah, I could say. I mean, the thing about Calgary is they got burned a little bit last year with the signings that they had with Mantha. I mean, and that didn't work out. I mean, due to injury and stuff. And so, I think they have to. They're going to be. They're going to find the right fit. That's the thing about Calgary. I don't think they're going to overspend for the wrong guy. I think they're going to find they're at that turning point. Like they need to find the right guy that's going to be there. So I don't think they're going to spend foolishly. I mean, I could see them spending big money, but I don't think it's going to be foolish money.
All right, Mac. Follow that up with your shocking move that you think we're going to see in free agency.
How about this?
Mr.
Sam
Shock
Bennett
Us
goes to
every
the Edmonton
time.
Oilers.
Sorry, I cut you off there. Who was that?
Sam Bennett goes to the Edmonton Oilers.
You put down the pipe. TJ, do you have a shocking move that might actually happen?
Yes, I want to see somebody offer sheet Evan Bouchard and make the Oilers make a decision on whether or not to make him a 10 million plus defenseman.
I think there's probably a team that should do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're shaking everything up and they've already started. And number two, they're the thorn in the proverbial side, and that's the LA Kings. That would be absolutely friggin' hilarious there. So plenty to talk about. As I said, TJ's going to kind of take us through teams over the next couple of weeks as we lead into free agency and give us his thoughts on them. Guys, let's switch to Major League Baseball, where last night the American League East made more baseball history. The Baltimore Orioles dropped 8 runs in the second inning last night at Tampa. That's happened to open the scoring. That's happened 450 times in Major League Baseball history where a team has dropped 8 runs to open the scoring. Last night was the first time ever that a team gave up 8 runs to open the scoring and did not allow a hit or a run after that for the remainder of the game. And that team was the Tampa Bay Rays, who won that game 12-8 last night.
Tampa Bay Rays.
So just when you think the Orioles can't get any worse, they do. Other history last night, and Mac will appreciate this one because everything he does in sports is with defective equipment. Left-handed pitchers earned 10 of the 12 wins last night in baseball, 83.3%. That's the highest percentage of games won by left-handed pitchers on a single day with at least 10 games in the modern era. Those two stats come from our friends at OptaStats. Speaking of left-handers, the San Francisco Giants, a team we've talked about a lot, made the biggest splash early in baseball in the Rafael Devers trade, where they absolutely ripped off the Red Sox. They dropped to 8-15 against left-handed starters last night, losing again to the Cleveland Guardians. They were kicking the ball around like they're ready for the World Cup. The Giants, 39 errors, 8th most in Major League Baseball. Guys, this is why I continue to ask the question about the San Francisco Giants, because everybody wants me to believe that they're for real because they're my team, and I don't think they are, Mac.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to give them a couple more weeks. Obviously, the Devers move is good. We'll see what else they do. Devers isn't going to probably help your defensive metrics very much, no matter where he plays. I mean, he's a good fielder. He's not great. But yeah, I mean, the one thing we talked about with the Giants is all these one-run victories. And, it's one of those things. In order to get those victories, you got to play good defense. We know they're going to pitch well. But we'll wait and see. Like I said, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt right now. They're there, but we're going to wait a couple more weeks, and then we'll have our definitive answer.
Plenty of day baseball going on right now. Those aforementioned San Francisco Giants will be in action at 1:05 on the West Coast, trying to avoid the sweep against the Guardians. And maybe the Giants come up a little bit later in liquid locks that I am on a massive losing streak on. But let's talk about balls, shall we? I don't know if everybody's seen this. You should have by now. But Andrew McCutcheon on his Twitter X account, whatever you're calling it these days, at the Cutch22. I was told by a rep for MLB that the balls are indeed different this year. They stated higher seams, which produces more drag on a baseball, causing baseballs to not travel as far as they should. When asked why, I was told every baseball is hand sewn and no ball was the same. When I asked if there was something that can be done about correcting the current performance of this year's baseball, I was told there was nothing that can be done about it this season, but they are, quote, working hard on getting to the bottom of why the seams are higher. So because of my love affair with Rob Manfred, TJ, I have created a new thing that we will refer to frequently on this show, the 6 C's of Major League Baseball. Our clown commissioner creates chaotic cluster of conformity. You need home runs in baseball. The greatest sports television commercial of all time is about chicks digging the long ball. I don't think this is a good thing for Major League Baseball. there are dominant pitchers all over the league. And I think games are more exciting, A, when they're not being rained out like half of yesterday was. And B, we need to see home runs here. And I'm going to go ahead and account and point the finger directly at Rob Manfred for this. This is something that seems like there should be some kind of checks and balances about as we go into the season. I mean, we've made pitch clock adjustments. We've increased the size of the bags, which has led to exciting things, shorter games, more steals. But you can't take the home run out of freaking baseball, man. It's the most exciting thing we see in baseball. What are your thoughts on balls, TJ?
I mean, it kind of goes either way for me. Like, should there be some standardization? Yes. Should we make these decisions in secret? No. Does an average of 4 feet really matter that much when your number 4 hitter is 6'5" and 250 pounds? No, it doesn't matter. I think the home run is doing just fine. But I was told earlier this year that the torpedo bats were the solution to this problem. And the team that employed the torpedo bats the most just ended a 30-inning scoreless streak against the gong show team of all time, the Los Angeles Angels of Orange County. So I don't know if this is this a, yes, this is probably a bad decision, but like, it doesn't really matter that much.
The aforementioned Yankees and their torpedo bats do have 2 home runs. Middle of the 7th from the Bronx. Yanks lead the Mickey Mouse Angels 4-3. Mac, do you have any other thoughts on balls before we go into some trade deadline talk?
I guess my thing would be, I mean, as long as they're the same throughout, that's all that matters to me. But I mean, like last year, we heard that the balls were too slick. This year, the seams are too high. So was the fact that they were too slick, did they make the seams bigger so they wouldn't be as slick as they were last year? I mean, is this in essence compensation for that? I mean, I don't really see, if the seams are bigger, pitchers should have more control and be dominating a little bit more. And I don't really see that. I mean, I guess, Aaron Judge only has to hit the ball, 121 feet to right field to hit home runs. But beyond that, he's still hitting home runs. And so I don't see a huge difference. I mean, Cal Raleigh seems like he's hitting the ball pretty far. I mean, I don't think it's that big a deal.
Slick, compensation, feet, and balls only here. Feel free to comment along. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show. Guys, the trade deadline is July 31st. We've already seen one big trade, and will we be shocked more is the big question. And we look at the standings, and Mac and I talked about the division leaders yesterday, and let's take a look at some teams that might shock us here, and I'll get us started. And it's a team we talked about in our spring training tours a lot. It's a team that I think is in their last current makeup, if you will, with their existing roster as it is. And a team that I think is going to massively shock us, and that's the Philadelphia Phillies. I think they're absolutely going to shake something off this tree. We saw the situation with Castellanos, where and the baseball gods are humorous here. So he makes a comment after he gets pulled out of the game, and he gets benched. And then last night he makes a catch crashing into the wall that Matt Strom almost gave up a walk-off home run on against Miami last night. I think the Phillies are absolutely going to shake something off this tree. And we're into an interesting offseason here, or a trade deadline coming up, because we've got, and you talked about supply and demand earlier, TJ, we've got a lot of teams that need bullpen help, and the Phillies bullpen is an absolute disaster right now. In losing Alvarado to the suspension, you've got the loss of Hoffman, and we've got some relievers that are going to be out there and available. We've got guys like Kyle Finnegan, Jake Bird, Ryan Helsley from St. Louis. What are the Cardinals going to do? I think Philly's going to shock us, because I think we could see one of those key offensive pieces get sent somewhere else. I think Dave Dombrowski, and we talked about this, is not going to sit quietly and he's not going to sit quietly for very long. And the Phillies' position, the pressure that they are putting on the Mets, they just haven't got over the hump. And obviously a healthy Bryce Harper will help, but the Phillies' bullpen is an absolute disaster right now, Mac.
Yeah, and I mean, even with that, I mean, they're just a few games behind the Mets. I mean, I can see. I mean, they're going to do something. I mean, that's probably the worst kept secret in baseball is that we know that they're going to do something on there. For me, there's one team that I think has some really big pieces, and they're going to have to make some interesting decisions, and that's the Atlanta Braves. What about Chris Sale? Do they keep Chris Sale? Where is this? He's an older pitcher. I mean, how many teams would like to incorporate Chris Sale into their rotation?
I'm sure there's
talked about Ozuna.
A lot of them. Yeah.
Right. And then, we talked about Ozuna. I mean, so here's the deal. And I think Atlanta kind of reminds me a little bit like of the Giants. I think we give them a couple more weeks. A couple more weeks, we get to the 4th of July, and we kind of see where they are. And then that's going to be the breaking point. Now, Atlanta's played better lately. Acuna's come. He's making it difficult for everybody. And so, so we'll see. So there's those teams. I mean, again, the 4th of July is a good kind of breaking point to see where these teams are going to be. But, I mean, yeah, Philadelphia's got to figure out that bullpen. Otherwise, they're not going to have much luck in October.
I'm going to make a bold prediction here. Since you brought up the Braves before we get to your team, TJ, that's going to shock us. The Braves are 5.5 games out of a wild card. Ronald Acuna in 80 at-bats this season is hitting .390 with 8 home runs. I mean, think about that. I don't think I'm going to be the contrarian here when it comes to the Braves. And Alex Anthopoulos is the best of the best in baseball at making moves. I don't think the Braves are going to be sellers. I think they're going to be buyers. Now, the Braves farm system, they don't have, tremendous depth as far as guys they would want to be willing to part with. And at only 5.5 games out of a wild card in the disaster that is the National League wild card race right now, TJ, I don't think the Braves are going to be sellers here. And I think they do legitimately think that they've got a shot, and they've got a chance to sweep the Mets today, who are at top the NL East.
That's one of the reasons why this season has been so confounding on so many levels. I mean, like the Braves have to jump over 4 teams to get into a wild card spot. Yet in a week, that could be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you're exactly right. But if they are going to be buyers, they're going to have to part with assets this time. They're not going to be able to float. They're not going to be able to float prospects because the pool is not that deep. They're going to have to get rid of actual assets to make this happen. And whether or not they're willing to do that is going to be up to Anthopoulos. And you're right. When he was in Toronto, he was great at making the moves to get that team to another wild card series loss. But he was great at making the moves. And so that's what excites me about the possibilities of the Braves in 25.
Yeah, and again, I think it's going to be a fun race, and I think that National League wild card race is going to get way more bunched up before it's going to get spread out and go forward. Teach, give me a team that you think is going to shock everybody, kind of a bold shock to everybody here as the trade deadline approaches.
All right, the Tampa Bay Rays are going to be in first place at the trade deadline, and Manfred is going to start freaking the hell out at the thought of home playoff games being held at Steinbrenner Field.
Dude, that would be incredible.
That would just ram it right up your ram hole, Manfred. I want it to happen so badly because that entire situation is a disaster. But the Rays just keep on winning. They just keep winning. And it's like, I don't know what it is, but Kevin Cash makes the right moves. And a perfect example is last night. I turned it off at 8-4, and then I get a message later on, hey, from my Rays fan friend, hey, we're winning 12-8. And I'm like, what? So it's a team that is really good at handling adversity all around them because they literally just put their head down and play baseball.
I'm gonna double down on the Rays here in a second when we get into some difference makers under the radar guys at the trade deadline, because I do think the Rays are in an interesting position, especially in their positioning. And we know the other team playing in a minor league ballpark is not going to force Manfred to have playoff games there by any stretch of the imagination. Mac, unmute your mic and give us your favorite shocking team going into the deadline. I'd have done it for you, but I can't.
No, that's okay. There's a couple that I was kind of going back and forth, and one that's interesting to me is always going to be San Diego. There's always a lot of talk about what the Padres are going to do, but the more and more I look at this, one team that's been we talked about it a little bit the other day, that's been kind of on a little bit of a tear, has been the Minnesota Twins, and I wonder what the Minnesota Twins are going to do at this deadline. They definitely need pitching help, that is for sure. I don't know how much they have. I mean, their farm system is okay. It's in the top half. I mean, but that's a team that's interesting because I obviously they're not going to win the Central. They're going to have to battle for the wild card. But playing in that division, we usually expect at least two teams out of that division. I think Minnesota, with a couple of moves, especially with pitching, could probably boost themselves into a wild card position.
Yeah, and we talk about the jumbled mess in the National League wild card. When you look at the American League wild card, you take the three wild card teams as it sits right now, the aforementioned Rays, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Guardians and the Red Sox in a tie for that last spot, and then you go down, including the Red Sox, who are in the first on the lower side of the line there. There's 6 teams within 2 games of a wild card spot, and the Twins are one of those teams at a game and a half. I'm going to give you an underrated guy, under the radar guy, that I think makes a massive difference. And TJ, you just mentioned the Rays, and I think the Rays are an interesting situation. We talked about the situation yesterday. There is an offer on the table, at least in the initial stages, for a new buyer for the Rays. Now, Stu Sternberg has been in this position before and back the hell out of it. So whatever happens there, but I think that also makes for some interesting decisions. And I think the Rays, and we talk about it all the time, like, how do the Rays continue to do this? It's like smoke and mirrors. We always discount them. They always hang around. So I think the Rays are going to be in an interesting spot to kind of keep an eye on, like, making the playoffs this year, which, again, I agree with TJ, would be hilarious to have playoff games if they were able to do that in that building. But I think they've got a piece that's going to help a lot of teams. And I know that a position of consternation in the Bronx is an infield bat, particularly somebody that can play second base. And I think the Rays have the perfect candidate for that, and it's Brandon Lau. I think he's a guy that is going to kind of get overlooked and could be moved at the deadline. He's having a fantastic year for the Rays. And again, it's interesting with the Rays, whether or not they make a move or they don't make a move. You look at the Seattle Mariners. We've talked about the Mariners, a team that I think is going to shock us and be aggressive, and they have the minor league depth to do so. But I think the Rays are in that, like, hey, we want to keep winning, but we also want to keep looking towards the future because there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts here. And I think Brandon Lau, TJ, is a guy that can really, really help some teams.
No, I think you're right there. I mean, he's been in that Rays dugout for so long, and he's almost like other than a couple other players, he's like he was there in 2020, right, when they made their run. So yes, he would be very. Does DJ LeMahieu not excite you anymore? I mean, come on,
doesn't excite anybody in New York.
No, absolutely not. He would be a perfect fit for a second base position in New York. Yes, the challenge would be, would the Rays be able to trade him inside the division if they are in a division title hunt with that same team?
If they follow your shock, they'll be in first place in the American League East. Mac, give us a difference maker, an under the radar guy that you think gets moved at the deadline.
Trevor Story. Going with the Red Sox. I think Trevor Story is one of those guys. I think the Red Sox are going to move off of him for a variety of reasons. That's a big bat that could make a difference in a lot of people's lineup. And, there's one of the teams that I talked about, San Diego. man, that makes me so sad to say this, but Xander Bogaerts is not the same player he was in Boston. He wasn't.
Yep.
And not that they would flip flop him, but you'd want to talk about, a guy that needs probably a new place to play. I think Xander is that guy. But I mean, Trevor Story would look good in a Padres uniform.
Wouldn't baseball just be hilarious if Walker Buehler goes back to the Dodgers and Xander Bogaerts went back to the Red Sox? Not going to happen. Not with Bogart's contract. TJ, give me one difference maker as we move forward here and change lanes, if you will.
When you talk about teams whose bullpens are disasters, and I think Tyler Anderson of the Angels would be a great fit for a team looking for a 6th, 7th, 8th inning guy to get you to bridge from your starter into your setup guy and your closer. His record is not outstanding. He's 2-4 this year, but he's a solid left-handed starter who will give you 4 to 5 innings, who's been giving the Angels 4 to 5 innings per start. You put him in a position where he doesn't have to go through the lineup twice. Maybe he only has to go through 5 or 6 batters. And I think he'd be a great asset for a team like I don't know, the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Feel free to comment along. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show. We're going to do a shorter version of either or today. And then I've got a question for both of you. So either or here. And I'm going to start with you, Mac, and we're going to test your sports allegiances and see where they lie. You've got free tickets, great seats to the Daytona 500, or you've got Masters grounds passes for Sunday at Augusta. What are you taking?
Going to the Daytona 500. I've always wanted to go. It was one of those trips that I wanted to go with my grandfather before he passed. It's like on my list. It'd be hard to pass up Augusta, but Daytona has even more like a personal agenda to it. I would love to go see the race at Daytona.
All right, TJ, we're going to test your allegiances here. The Angels with a home game 7 of the World Series or an all expenses paid trip to the Super Bowl to see the Las Vegas Raiders in the Super Bowl.
Oof.
I know both of them seem like complete fantasy situations, but do your best.
They are. They one's happened before, right? I would take.
No, we're not talking about that. Don't go there.
I would go to the Game 7. I don't think if you've never attended a Game 7, there's absolutely nothing like it, because it is literally the teams are doing everything that they can to get over the hump, and so I would go to Game 7 for sure, without a doubt.
All right. I'm going to skip the other couple here. I got one question for you guys, and then we'll talk NBA Finals because that is obviously at the top of the list of importance today. Growing trend going around right now. Have you guys seen the 999 challenge on social media? What it is 9 beers, 9 hot dogs in 9 innings of a baseball game. So the question I asked, all parties included here, and Mac, yours could be root beers if you wanted. I mean, I get it. But which one of the 3 of us on the show would you put the best betting odds on to complete the 999 challenge? Mac, I'll start with you.
I'm going to go with TJ. That's my sneaky pick. I think he would be able to do it. Because I think by about the 7th inning, you'd probably be kicked out of the stadium.
Who? Me? Yeah. For what reason? I have never harassed an umpire ever in my life. If you're watching along, who do you think on the show could complete the 999 challenge? 9 dogs, 9 beers in 9 innings. TJ, best betting odds on the show to complete the 999 challenge.
I'd probably have to go with Mac. And I just think I think that Mac is one of those guys that when he puts his mind to something, that dude could put in a shift and And once you get the dogs down, that's the hard part. The rest of it's easy. So as someone who tried it once in my younger days, it is
You have?
it is a Herculean task. I made it 5 innings.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
See, Mac being the wiener connoisseur on this show.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead. I
I'm
just
gonna
called
say,
you a wiener connoisseur.
Since
I'm
we're
done.
talking hot dogs. Since we're talking hot dogs.
There you go.
We
How
forgot
much
to bring this
longer
up.
did I
Here we
need to
go.
set that
My
up for
boy,
you?
Joey Chestnut's going to be back. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. 4th of July, Coney Island. The man is back. Joey C.
That's why I said
So
Mac
excited. Can't
Mac
wait.
is the wiener connoisseur on the show. I'm a little shocked that
Damn.
neither one of you guys picked me. I mean, I think Mac's reasoning for why he wouldn't pick me is probably sound. I mean, again, I have never harassed an umpire, not even in a Cactus League game. What are you talking about? All right, NBA Finals, guys. If this game is close, I think Indy wins it. But obviously, the question of the hour is Tyrese Halliburton. And it's not, is he going to play? Listen, we've talked about this. And as of right when we got on the air, and I'm sure, TJ, you could probably get a better look at this, but as of when we started the show today, a little bit later, and we apologize for that, Oklahoma City -6 and -220 on the money line. Indiana +184 on the money line, over under at 222.5. And I said it this morning in my preview video for tonight's game that you've got to figure out what your line of demarcation is here. And if you think the Pacers are going to win, you should have already jumped on it. Maybe you were waiting for some line movement, but I think this is a thing that especially amateur bettors, which most of us are, do is you wait for the boosters to come in on your favorite sportsbook app and whatever. If you thought there was a chance that Tyrese Halliburton wasn't going to play in this game, okay, I can see you waiting for some line movement here. But here's the reality of the situation. Unless the Pacers think that this could lead to some long-term serious damage and they just say, hey, you're not playing, we know Tyrese is going to play. Mm-hmm. How effective he is the thing. And I think it's important to remember, and Tim Legler said this last night on a Sports Center hit, the thing you got to remember about this is not a pain tolerance issue. This is it's in your head issue. And every time you go to accelerate, and TJ, I'll start with you here because you are the runner of the group and you know this very well. It's every time you make a move, it's in your head because you can feel how tight it is. And it makes you hesitant to accelerate and in what do we talk about in basketball all the time? How quickly a guy can move laterally. Mm-hmm. And that's where they're at their best. And I think we have to remember this is more of a mental injury than it is an actual physical injury, or 50-50 if you want to call it that. But it's not a pain tolerant thing. And I think people there's a lot of people going, well, we'll see if he really wants it. If you're questioning if Tyrese Halliburton really wants this, then you're an idiot. It's more of how effective can he be?
No, I've been rehabbing an injury for 2 months. That's kind of similar. Look, it is in your head, yes, and you always think that you can. Oh, I can fight through it, and then you fight through it, and then an hour later, you're in so much pain that you're done for 5 more days. So yes, it is a mental and a physical problem that Hallie's going to be facing. But yes, but they also have to look, and especially in this age of economics and sports, this guy's an investment. They have to protect their investment. If they think that they have any chance of repeating the success that they've had this year, this investment needs to be able to go in 3.5, 4 months again through 100 games. So it's a huge decision that the player and the management team has to make regarding tonight.
Mac, what are your thoughts on the situation with Halliburton? And I know I'm asking you this, knowing that you are the guy that is the crusher of hope, the killer of series, the ender of all enders before time. The situation with Halliburton before I think I know what you're going to pick tonight. What do you make of the situation and its impact on tonight's game?
if there's a good thing for Indiana, it's this. They obviously know about it. So they've had a couple of days to plan. When the injury happens, of course, you don't plan for an injury, and so you don't know. And so at least the last couple of days, they've been able to say, okay, if he can go, and they listen, they know more than we do. They know where he's going to be. He hasn't been effective in the series for the most part anyway. And so they kind of know. So Indiana's got a game plan going in, kind of with him at whatever percentage he's at versus if we don't have to play with him at all. So there's that part is good. At least they're not blindsided by this. So I think there's a little bit that will help Indiana a little bit. But I really think the bottom line is this. I mean, when he was healthy, he wasn't exactly a great factor in this series anyway. And so I think that just, obviously, we know someone's going to have to step up and take his minutes and points and whatnot. But I think it's going to be a pretty big task tonight for Indiana.
Some keys to the game tonight. Let's go around the table here from my right to the left, basically to TJ. And then to Mac. For the Pacers, I got to see this Pacers team get out early. You got the home crowd behind you. Last home game of the season. We know what the differential is in the first quarter. They're a minus 32. I think the other key, and I talked about this in referencing some of the ways that the whistle has gone, is keeping Aaron Nesmith out of foul trouble. They need him defensively, especially with Hallie as a question mark, because I think that's the thing that people don't pay as much attention to. Their offense has a whole different flow with Hallie, and you know how much I love TJ McConnell, but their offense flows better. Mm-hmm. Their defense also flows way better with Hallie out there. Mm-hmm. Their defense needs Nesmith on the floor tonight. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, my final point here, and I mentioned this the other day, it's tough to get easy baskets against the Thunder because of the way they play defense. I need the Pacers at times tonight, if they're going to pull this off, when they get the easy looks, to try and engage foul trouble on the Thunder. For all you conspiracy theorists out there, the NBA wants a 7th game right now. All the Pacers need to do is when they're in close into the basket. I think that one extra pass tonight is something that they might want to look away from and try and get some of these guys for the Thunder into foul trouble, because we know Indy's depth, TJ, is better than OKC's.
Yeah, and for God's sakes, can we stop with the extra pass to kick out to a 3-point attempt, which is probably not going to end well? I mean, give me a break. That is so aggravating. Like you said, Mike, get down low, get the Thunder in foul trouble, stop with the extra pass. I look for my guy, Pascal Siakam, to have a huge impact tonight for the Pacers.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, give me a couple keys for the Pacers tonight.
You got to get off to a good start. You can't fall behind. This is not going to be a night where they can, where they're going to be able to recover, I think, from a deficit. So I think they have to play out front and stay out front in order to win this game. If you go back into history, you see a lot of NBA clinching games are really not that close. And I think what happens is you see the team kind of, They get to kind of like what we saw with Edmonton the other night. Kind of, there's nothing we can do. I think it gets magnified tonight if Halliburton doesn't play or doesn't play well. This could go south real quick.
Yeah, a trend in the NBA Finals when you're up 3-2 as the road favorite since 2003, 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread, 1-1 to the under to back Mac's point there. For the Thunder, this is my biggest key and my only key for the Thunder tonight. You got to keep your foot on the gas pedal. If you've got your foot on their throats, you've got to keep it there. This is the one thing that I think will hang tonight, and I think it hangs massively if we get to Sunday with this team, because this Pacers team has way more of a veteran presence. Young teams struggle with finishing the job. And if you're the Thunder tonight and you jump out early, I am playing the Thunder on the money line in the first quarter, because why not? They've had the lead pretty much the entire series in the first quarter. I got to see the Thunder have that gene in them, TJ, tonight. We've got you down, and we're going to keep you on the ground.
Let's see if the MVP plays like an MVP. We always talk about stars being your stars. Let's see what SGA does. I like that play, actually, of the Thunder coming out quickly, because what that'll do is that will get, like Max said, now the Pacers are chasing the game. And when they're chasing the game, you're bound to make more mistakes and poor decisions. And if that happens, you stack all those bad decisions, you're going to have a very quick game 6.
Matt, keys for the Thunder, and then we'll get some game picks and some liquid locks and get up on out of here. What are your keys for the Thunder?
For the Thunder, keep doing what you've been doing, man. I mean, it's been successful. You've dominated this series. You really, really have. I think if you can even put a little bit more pressure on Indiana, I mean, and especially if Halliburton's in the game, man, oh man, I am going to make him. I'm going to make him play defense. I am going to make him run through screens. I am going to make him work. It's kind of that pack mentality. You find the weak spot and go for it. I'm going to make him work and in essence try to get him out of the game, because if he's out of the game, I don't think they win.
All right, game picks. I already made a couple of them this morning. Jalen Williams over 10.5 rebounds and assists. That's a -110. -105 if it's still out there, if you can find it. And I am going to play Lou Dort to hit 4 threes, like I said this morning. He's had the opportunities. There's been 3 times this series he's been right at that mark or above it. As far as the game goes, I've been on this Pacers team the whole time. I think there's a lot of people that think because of the Halliburton situation that the Pacers don't have a chance tonight. And this team has been a wild ride for me. I know it's been a wild ride for the city of Indy. And I do think that they will live the fight another day. So I'm going to play the Pacers on the money line, and a guy I think is going to be huge, because if you look at his shot volume in this series with Halliburton on the floor, it's pretty high. With Halliburton limited, struggling, whatever the case may be, I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities, and I think he comes up big for the Pacers. Benedict Mathurin for 15 points tonight. That's a +625. TJ, give me your game pick for tonight.
I'm on my guy, Pascal Siakam. He's going to have to provide the leadership if Hallie is out, or if he doesn't play very many minutes. He's got the championship pedigree. He's been here before. I like him 25 plus tonight. It was +175 when I got it.
I like that play a lot as well. I've actually played it myself. Vegas Mac, killer of hope, damager of dreams, effer of the future. What do you have tonight for the Thunder Pacers?
I'm going with a triple double. SGA over 40, over 1.5 steals, and over a half a block.
Wow. So obviously Mac thinks the Thunder are going to win. All right, liquid locks, fellas. Again, yesterday I chose to just do nothing and contribute nothing to the show. I went 0-2. I'm 0 for my last 5 liquid locks. Take that for what you think. I think Christian Walker was the only guy that didn't homer last night for the Astros. So we got nothing last night. I'll start us off in liquid locks. I am going to go to 2 teams on the Major League Baseball slate. One of them gets going here in about 26 minutes. The San Francisco Giants that can't field a ball. They can't hit left-handers, and they have a break today because they're not facing a left-handed starter. We're going to take the Giants on the money line, looking to avoid the sweep. Brandon Webb. Logan Webb. I was going to say how many times I confuse him with Brandon Webb, and I just did it anyway. Logan Webb on the mound for the Giants. 4 starts this season, he's had over 10 strikeouts. When you need to stop the bleeding, Webb is your guy. So Giants on the money line, and I'm going to take the Marlins on the money line, also looking to avoid damages, if you will. Christopher Sanchez has been great for Philadelphia, but we talked about that bullpen for the Phillies, and I trusted about as little as I trust the Diamondbacks bullpen. Miami's bullpen has been better, and Miami does hit left-handers a little bit better than they hit right-handers. So Schwarber and Castellanos 4 for 24 with 7 strikeouts against Cabrera. So Marlins money line, Giants money line, +358. TJ, give me a liquid lock for the evening or afternoon, if you will.
Since I've been going to this well, I've been doing pretty well, so I'm going back to it. And I'm going to the aforementioned bandbox that's Steinbrenner Field. Orioles and Rays over 8.5 tonight. Junior Caminero, give me mucho RBIs. This game's going to go way over.
What was your number you got it at?
8.5.
TJ is undefeated in liquid locks. And now the man that makes liquid locks as solid as water. Vegas Mac, why is that brush? That's like a Marty McSorley brush right there. It's curved.
Holy
Did you see
smoke.
that? What the hell is going on
Yes.
with
You
that
are
thing?
You
such,
got it.
you are
My
such
liquid
a
locks.
donkey.
My liquid locks tonight. We're going to go down to George Steinbrenner, Yankee Stadium, the mini replica, whatever it's called. Hold on, sweetie. Down there. Listen, Charlie Morton's pitched a whole lot better for Baltimore, but it doesn't really matter. Brendan Lau, he's going deep. That's my liquid lock for tonight.
I might actually play all 4 of those. And how many games does Lau have left for the Rays? Is he going to be a Yankee as I predicted? We shall see. Our next show will be Tuesday next week. TJ is going to, next time you see TJ after Saturday, he's going to be in a very interesting place and have an interesting backdrop. And we will give you more of that later. He'll be gone next week. So you're stuck with me in Vegas, Mac. But that usually leads to some hilarity. I might try the 999 challenge myself this weekend. I'm still recovering from U.S. Open sleep. So for everybody behind the scenes, for TJ, for Vegas Mac, we will talk to you Tuesday. More on our social channels at Mike Arana Show. I'm Mike. We're out.